Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. We got an exciting one for y'all today. Today, we're going to be talking about the brand new kid on the block, Flex. So this right here is Flex's 24 volt 7¼ inch brushless circular saw. We've had a good chance to use it. It feels pretty nice and stuff like that. We're going to go over from top to bottom, put it on our test track, so stick with us. All right, y'all, so this right here is the brand new Flex circular saw, okay? The model number on this one is FX2141-1D, okay? So the saw itself is FX2141, and I guess in this kit it comes with 1D. And Flex is fairly new to the market, well, at least the brand is. The company and the parent company and all that backing behind it has obviously been run for a while, but the Flex brand is new to the market and is currently exclusively only sold at Lowe's, okay? So they had a product launch, I think it was like earlier this year or not too long ago. Nobody invited us, nobody sent this to us. The video's not sponsored. This is something that we just went out and got due to some of the comments and stuff that we've seen some of our other videos saying, hey, the Flex tool is also really awesome. You should probably go check that out, you know, whether it's better than some of the other stuff we're going to go find out later. But this one right here is fairly new to market, and this is kind of the new kid on the block, okay? So let's go over some of the marketing hype, and then we'll bring you in closer and take a better look at it. So this tool right here is Flex's 2141-1D. It rips through 2x4 material with Flex's 24 volt brushless system. This lightweight circular saw is a durable beast and is advanced cutting performance for ultimate cutting capacity. And it will cut up to 3x material in one pass, okay? So this tool right here has an LED light. It uses a 7¼ inch blade. No load speed RPM is 5,800. Will bevel up to 56 degrees. The arbor is a 5/8 inch arbor, and at 90 degrees it will cut 2 5/8 of an inch, and at 45 degrees it will cut 1 7/8 of an inch. The tool weighs in at a whopping 9 pounds, okay? And the tool has a back 5-year warranty, end-to-end warranty, okay, or so it claims. And right now, if you buy it before 2021 and you register it, you will get the Flex limited lifetime founder's warranty, or so they claim, okay? So they do have some other marketing hype in here, like the Flex advantages has 20% more power, 25% longer runtime, and 50% faster charging, okay? So 20% more power, I think they're really getting from, this is the 24 volt system, right? So 24 volt system uses 6 cells, whether it's using 21700 cells or 18650 cells, it doesn't really matter in terms of the number of how they're getting that 20%, right? Because in a 20 volt system, they're using 5 cells in series to really get that 18 to 20 volts, right? So this is a 24 volt system, meaning they have 1 extra cell, and that 1 extra cell is about 20% more than, obviously, in this 24 volt system, getting you that 20%, okay? So the Flex advantage here is it uses that THERMA-TECH heat management technology, and it has a dual fan charger, allows you to charge faster. And this one here says it has a sensor-free brushless motor. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have sensors. It just means that the brushless motor doesn't have sensors, okay? So on the marketing material here, it says every Flex 24 volt tool built around an intelligent sensor-free brushless motor. By removing the sensors away from the motor, this creates an extremely efficient and durable motor design. These motors are optimized to deliver more power, okay? So usually on brushless motors, a lot of that stuff is like digitally controlled, so they have sensors and stuff. So they were able to create this brushless motor without having the sensors built into the motor, okay? So it will still have sensors, but not in the motor, okay? It has an exceptional runtime, they claim, maximum cutting capacity. So this all has cut up to 2 5/8, so that allows you to cut 3x material in one pass, because 3x material is usually about 2.5, okay? So this will be able to do that. Magnesium footplate and guard, and because, you know, it's a 24 volt system, it kind of works on all of their 24 volt tools, okay? So anyways, that's what the marketing hype really says, and I will go ahead and say they've done a pretty good job about making this tool feel premium, right? So when you pick up the box from Lowe's, the Flex box, and let me bring it here. So this is the Flex box that it really comes in, okay? So when you pick up this box from Lowe's, it feels like a nice box. It's a pretty high quality box. It's not like the thin, really cheap feeling boxes. It's a pretty hefty box. It feels hefty. Even the box being empty right now feels hefty. The outside feeling of the boxes is pretty nice. You can tell they've put some quality into this thing here, okay? So the other thing you'll feel on here when you first immediately start using it is you grab it and it just feels nice. It just feels like a quality, more refined tool. This battery, I'm not even sure what they really did with this battery, but you pick it up, it's a pretty hefty battery, and whatever they did with the battery to make it feel, I mean, it's all rubberized and stuff going on here. They've done a really nice job to make this tool feel like a premium tool. Like when you grab it, hold it, use it, you'll feel that it's like a premium tool, and they've done a pretty good job with that, okay? So let's bring you in closer and take a better look at the saw. So this right here is the business end of the saw, or the business side of the saw, okay? One of the first things to point out on here is that the dust port is included. The dust port attaches with one screw that you can attach right here. This dust port is a little bit smaller than the ones that I'm really used to, so you kind of see I have taped up here to kind of build it up to make the dust port hose fit. But it does work generally pretty well. It's not super exceptional by any means, but it generally seems to work. On some of the videos or some of the clips, you may see that I have just the dust port taped on there, but in this case, I just built it up a little bit with duct tape to put it on there. So the other thing that mentioned on there is that they do include 2 blade guard levers, okay? The reason they include that is because the first one, or the one that is included when you buy the tool, is this one. And if you include this one, it will get caught on the dust port and it will not open. So you do have to replace the one that is included with the smaller one right here, such that it will move freely, clearing the dust port, okay? So that's why they have there. And it's just done by one screw, no big problem, all right? So the magnesium base right here, guard, all this stuff is magnesium. Nothing too super fancy or anything to talk about, but that's what's really there, okay? Has a rubber stopper right here, as most tools usually do, to, you know, loosen or lessen that bump going on there. And here is the bolt for the arbor, okay? It's a hex bolt. It is not an Allen key type bolt thing that you really have to use in some tools. And it does include the blade wrench, which is at the back right here, okay? So this blade wrench is curved and indented, and it actually has 2 different sizes here. The one that you have to use, or the one that you want to use, is this the raised edge right here, or the angled one, because it actually fits really tight right here. If you use this side, I'm not really sure what exactly this is used for. I can't figure that out. Maybe they have a different arbor or a different size used in different countries or whatnot. It's a little big, so it has a lot of flex there. Look at that, flex, what do you know? So that's not the part that you use, but it is stored back here behind the tool, okay? And that's what's really going on right there. Moving on to the front, here is the front of the tool. Let's leave this battery here to prop it up. The front of the tool goes on here. It does have stamped in guides or gauges or whatever you want to call them, and it does have a bevel system. It's a single lever bevel system, and to lock it, you press this way, and to unlock it, it goes this way, okay? And it is fairly nice, mainly because, as you can see here, when you unlock it, it stops right here, right? So unlike the Milwaukee rear handle saw, which will spin like freely, almost indefinitely until it falls off, if you get it caught on a part where it gets stuck like that, it will stop right here. So that's actually nice, and it's a fairly short throw, so it works fairly well here. And this right here is something that kind of feels like they've kind of, in a way, copied the Makita design on the quick bevels or quick levels or whatever you want to call that. So here's level here, you can prop that, so when you unlock it, when you tilt it or bevel it, it will bevel up to only that part of the saw, okay? So like for instance there, only beveled up to there, right? So if you wanted to do a stop or a bevel up to 22 degrees, you push the button, the knob in, turn it to 22, you hear a click, right? So if I unlock it, now it's only beveling up to 22 degrees, okay? And the bevel gauge is also stamped in to here, so you don't really have to worry about stickers or stuff like that coming loose or wearing out or whatnot. Unlike the Bosch saw we just reviewed, all of this stuff has been stamped in pretty well, okay? And the base has like a shiny finish to it, almost like they have a clear coat finish or whatnot, but that's what's really going on the front part of the saw. One more thing, a quick look over here is the 45 guideline is right here, and the 0 guideline is right there. Okay, moving on to the back of the saw, or the other end of the saw, or this side of the saw, let's call it. It has a handle right here. Haven't really needed a chance to use it too much, and it does stick out a little bit here, as you can see. But if you can check it a little bit, it is raised just a little bit. So if you have a very short lipped framing square, you can kind of, use it to help guide your cut or whatnot. But if you have one of those bigger ones, it will get caught right there, even though they did lift it just a little bit right there. Okay, nothing too much, nothing too interesting going on over there, except unlike on a lot of Sidewinder style saws, the depth gauge lever, or depth cut lever, is actually right here, just like on the Bosch one we just reviewed, right? The GKS 18VCN or whatever that was, is right here, instead of being caught in here as it is on some of the saws, right? So this is actually convenient, mainly because you're not trying to put your hand in a small like crevasse, whatever you want to call it, to get that gauge locked or unlocked, right? And it does work pretty well in terms of adjusting the gauge depth of cut here, and this lever is metal, unlike the one on the Bosch one that we just reviewed, and it's metal, and it is pretty stiff, right? So it's not like the Bosch one that has a lot of play either. I'm sorry, we're just comparing to the Bosch because that's the one that we just came off of reviewing. Okay, so this actually works really well, and it is very convenient they did this well here, because even the lever, that part that sticks out here, is pretty wide. So if you have big fingers, small fingers, or whatnot, no issue, no problem. Okay. Moving around to the back part of the saw. So on the back part of the saw, it's pretty standard, right? Nothing too interesting to worry about or talk about there. The thing that you need to know here is, obviously, this is stored here, right? The blade wrench, but also the depth guide, or the gauge, is actually very interesting, mainly because they've done something maybe just a hair different than some of the other tools that we may see, right? So if you look closely, right here, let me get it up for you, they've included the depth gauge, or the guide rail, or whatever you want to call it. It's actually stamped into this guard, or the top part of the blade housing guard, whatever you want to call it, right? So there's a little white piece of paint that tells you the pointer, right? And then depending on how you move it up, it will move up to like wherever you're trying to get the gauge set to for your depth of cut, okay? That's convenient, it's nice. I mean, obviously you don't have to worry about it like a sticker or something like that coming off, but that is a little bit different than you do see on most saws. I did want to point that out. Not that most people use that, they just really just set it there and then, figure out the depth of cut like this anyways, right? So that is there, okay? So with that being said, the other thing really going on here at the top is, obviously, here's the grip and the handle. The safety is ambidextrous. You can put it either left or both ways, so it's convenient for that. And it does have a rafter hook, but the rafter hook is only really sized for like 2x material, right? Or anything smaller than that. If you have like a double stack or a 4x4 or anything like that, it will not fit there. So just to make sure, wanted to point that out. The other thing to note here is this spindle lock button here is right here. It's a little bit different, and I found it kind of fairly interesting to use, mainly because out of all the saws I think I've ever used, this one has the most play in it, right? So like, for instance, it moves like that, and at first I thought it was maybe I was doing something wrong. So even if you have it and you're pressing down and turning it, right, it will move just a little bit, like the bolt will move just a little bit before it actually comes loose. I thought that was interesting. I mean, they've done a fairly good job, or pretty well, in making everything feel really, really premium, except for maybe this one spindle lock button thing here. But other than that, won't complain too much, okay? So usually we will not look at the batteries, but in this case, since this is a new kid on the block and this is a new battery platform and whatnot, we'll go and take a look at it real quick. So The Flex battery is rubber overmolded, and it's pretty well built. Okay, it's interesting in terms of it even has grip holders right here, right? What I found is that when you engage it and disengage it off the tool, it will slide out fairly easily, even though I haven't done this too many times, right? So it slides in fairly easily and slides out fairly easily. Some tools you'll see that it kind of gets stuck and kind of have to wiggle it and all that stuff to get it out, but on the Flex one, seems like it's like this. And that may be because it's fairly new. We don't know. We'll have to see how it goes in the long run. But this is an 8 amp hour battery from Flex, and it does come with the tool if you buy it as a kit, and it has a battery button fuel gauge lever right here. So you press this button and it will light up a gauge that's on both sides. Okay, so that's fairly new. I haven't seen that on the tool yet, right? Usually the battery gauge lever is like right here, right? Or right here. But on this one, press it and it's on both sides. Okay, so that's actually fairly nifty, fairly interesting. The charger that this one comes with is a 280 watt charger. It's a rapid charger, so they claim, so it can charge pretty fast. Balance leads, charge connectors, thermal stuff is right here, and it is a dual fan charger, meaning it tries to cool the battery down when it's charging. Okay, so I don't really see any issues with this in particular that I could immediately see, right? So that's pretty much a closer look at the saw. One thing to cover is there's an LED light right here that does work pretty well. It doesn't necessarily super bright or wow by any means, but it is worthwhile to point out that there is an LED light on this saw. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to point out before we put it on track is just using it in general before we put it on track, you can kind of tell that it has like some kind of heritage with the Kobalt XTR line, right? So I think they're probably made by the same company or owned by the same company, whatever it may be. But the feeling that you get when you hold the saw and use it, it just reminds you of that Kobalt XTR stuff if you've used that pretty well, right? If you haven't used it all that much, then it will just feel like a certain new type of saw to you. But to me, we don't own any Kobalt of the XTR tools, but we have used it. And this one just feels more in line with that. It just feels maybe a hair faster, more fine, more power. But it does feel like that. Okay, so with that being said, let's charge the batteries or whatnot, and then we'll go ahead and put it on the track, and then we'll take a look at the numbers. So stay tuned. hope you guys caught those numbers because those numbers went by really fast, okay? And as we do on the video, even if you didn't, we'll go over a recap anyway, so it really doesn't matter. So let's go ahead and take a recap of those numbers, okay? So this Flex FX2141 or 2141 saw with this fully charged 8 amp hour battery, when we tested it using a brand new blade that we do on every test, so every test uses the same blade. On the double stack performance test, first number comes in at 3.1 seconds, second run comes in at 3.16 seconds, third run comes in at 3.42 seconds, okay? Averaging those 3 runs, it comes in at 3.23 seconds, all right? That's actually really fast, all right? Moving on to the triple stack performance test, okay? The first run comes in at 4.54 seconds. Second run comes in at 4.46 seconds. Third run comes in at 4.43 seconds. Averaging those 3 runs, the average comes out to 4.48 seconds, all right? So the way we get the total performance score on this series or on these videos right now is we take the averages and we add them up, right? So the double stack average and the triple stack average. So if we add those up, okay, this 2141 saw with this 8 amp hour battery, the total performance number comes in at 7.70 seconds. Bam, that's fast, all right? That puts this saw in third place right behind the DeWalt DCS577 with a 2 amp hour flex volt battery and just barely ahead of, or just ahead of the GSR02 XTT Makita 40 volt saw with a 4 amp hour battery, but that saw is a 10.25 inch saw, okay, 10 inch blade saw, all right? So this saw is fast. This is probably one of the faster lower voltage saws, at least the ones that we've fairly seen, right? And this one's actually fairly new out of the box. We've had maybe a couple hours of use with it before we put it on test tracks. I'm not sure if that really matters. We did cycle through this battery at least 2 or 3 times before we did go do that test. So let's go ahead and talk about the test. So if you didn't see it in the footage of the testing, definitely go back and take a look at it, because right after the third cut, or was it during the third cut? It may have been during the third cut on the triple stack test. The saw started experiencing weird kinds of issues, right? Maybe the light started blinking and the brake stopped working on the saw, okay? I mean, usually, and when it's doing that, usually the saw is trying to tell you something, right? So in this case, it was a thermal throttle cut out because we started with a fully charged 8 amp hour battery, and there's no way it would drain that fast, right? So as you do on every test, between the double stack test and the triple stack test, we let the saw obviously cool down for a minimum of 1 hour, and we do usually start with almost another fully charged battery, okay? So on the third cut, if you count the saw, it gets at the fourth cut, but on the third cut of the run, it stopped doing that, and it was really weird, so we started trying to figure out what's going on, right? So we usually stop with 3 cuts, but in this case, because we don't have too much experience with the saw, we just kept cutting to see what was going to happen, right? And I think the fourth cut, it worked fine. It was still blinking, and the blade brake didn't work. On the fifth cut, I think it cut out somewhere probably closer to the end, and it wouldn't come back on for, I don't know, like 30 seconds or so or whatnot, right? And that was when thermal limits of the saw really came into play. So that was very interesting for us, mainly because we've never on this channel, at least on this series, had a tool that didn't necessarily fully make it through the track, all right, without having those issues, right? So technically speaking, it did make it through because it did make the 3 cuts, right? But at the end of the third cut, we started noticing issues or problems with it, right? So it seems a little bit low that the saw would thermally cut out after maybe 5 of those cuts. Sure, we've pushed it pretty hard because, you know, we're trying to get the fastest numbers that we can. But 4 or 5 cuts on triple stack, 23, 30 seconds, subfloor OSB is fairly low, I would say, for like a professional grade tool, and Flex is trying to market themselves to be a professional grade tool, right? Like I said, I think even the subcompact Makita one, it slowed down, but it didn't necessarily have a thermal cutout. So anyways, with that being said, what can we say about this tool? This tool obviously cuts really fast, okay? But is it the right tool for you? I don't know. You're gonna have to go and figure that out, right? If you need a tool that you just only making a few cuts with that you want to be fast, this is a great tool, right? But if you're like framing or working on a job site or whatnot and doing a lot of cuts, this all may thermally cut out depending on how quickly you work and what type of material and things that you're cutting. But I just want to remind you, fully charged battery before the test, and a brand new test blade, okay? So for us, we've experienced that issues, and even when we're using it to clean up the pallets that we get for, you know, all the heavy machinery and stuff that we always work with on sites and stuff like that always comes on pallets, so we have to clean those up. Cutting those, I don't know how many it got through, but it also had a thermal cutout, okay? So for us, the couple times that we've used it, we've always seen some kind of thermal cutout, so it's not necessarily the best saw in our opinion, but it will work pretty fast if you are doing light duty work, I would say. So with that being said, Flex is fairly new to the market, right? So they haven't, I guess, launched all of their tools, but they do have the core tools that you need. When I say core tools, I mean like drills, impacts, recips, circular saws, oscillating tools, and things like that. I think they may have a few other tools, but core tools, I think that's generally what people look at, right? So only time will tell on how long this Flex brand and battery platform and things are going to be around, right? The more established brands have pretty much all the tools that you would want, or most people want at least, in their lineup, right? But Flex is just starting out. Is it a good attempt at their first like circular saw on the market under the brand? Sure, it's great, right? The first circular saw on the market they've released cut up really fast, or put up really good times on the track, just didn't last very well in terms of like thermal management and you know, maybe throughout the day type of stuff. So the battery is also here. It's a pretty nifty battery. The thing I do want to note about this is, like I mentioned before, if I haven't, it's a pretty hefty battery. So this is not like a battery you would want to use on your drills or impacts, because this battery probably weighs more than that drill or impact, okay? So we'll go ahead and visit that sometime in the near future, right? So is this tool right for you? You're gonna have to go and figure out depending on your workload, right? It cuts fast, it may not last as long, right? But only you can really decide that. So we can give you at least the numbers and give you an idea what it can do. So I hope this video's helped you guys out. Stay tuned for more episodes and more series and videos like this. Let me know what you guys think about the tool, right? I mean, it's a great tool. Have you guys used it or whatnot? I'm just not sure, because this Flex is fairly new, and I don't know a lot of people that own that brand, or people that I've worked with at least that know that brand or use the brand. So like I said, I hope the video helped you guys out. Stay tuned, and we'll see you guys next time.